Hello, Toon Army. What a brilliant day to be talking about our beloved Newcastle United. There's nothing quite like the feeling of supporting the best team in the world, is there? The passion, the pride, the absolute magic that happens when we all come together at St. James Park. It's something truly special that only we Geordies can understand. Now then, I've got some cracking Newcastle United stories to dive into today that are getting everyone buzzing around the Toon. Based on the latest news coming out of St. James Park, there are some proper talking points that need our attention. Here are two questions that I reckon will get the whole Toon Army discussing in the comments below. What do you think about potentially signing Dominic Calvert-Lewin on a free transfer as our backup striker option after missing out on Liam Delap to Chelsea? And how do you feel about the club being ready to permanently sell Matt Targett for $15 million while guaranteeing Kuol'S future at Newcastle remains uncertain? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'm absolutely buzzing to hear what you lot think about these developments. Right then, let's get stuck into this striker business that's been dominating the headlines lately. As we all know, finding the right backup for Alexander Isak has become quite the challenge for our beloved Magpies, and the recent Liam Delap saga has perfectly highlighted just how tricky this market can be. The news that Delap has chosen Chelsea over us might sting a bit, but honestly, his reasoning tells us everything we need to know about the modern game. The lad wants guaranteed starting time, which is fair enough from his perspective, but it shows he doesn't quite understand what it means to fight for your place at a club like Newcastle United. When you've got Alexander Isak leading the line, and what a player he is, you know that whoever comes in as backup needs to have the right mentality and understand they're joining the best team in the world where competition for places is fierce. This whole situation with Delap perfectly sums up why Newcastle will continue to struggle in the striker market. Top young talents want immediate playing time, and established stars often come with price tags that don't make financial sense when you're already blessed with someone of Isak's caliber. It's a proper conundrum that Eddie Howe and the recruitment team are facing, especially with Callum Wilson set to leave on a free transfer and Will Osula not quite ready to step up as the main understudy. Enter Dominic Calvert-Lewin, and what an interesting proposition he presents. Now I know what some of you might be thinking. He's not exactly the most exciting name that could be linked with our club, but hear me out, because there's some real logic behind this potential move that could work brilliantly for Newcastle United. The beauty of potentially signing Calvert-Lewin on a free transfer is that it allows us to allocate our precious summer budget to other areas where we desperately need reinforcement. We all know that most of our transfer kitty needs to go towards finding a top-class centre-back and that elusive right-winger we've been crying out for. Getting a striker of Calvert-Lewin's experience and Premier League pedigree without paying a transfer fee would be absolutely brilliant business. Now, Calvert-Lewin might not set pulses racing like some other targets might, but let's be realistic about what we need. We need someone who understands the Premier League, someone who can come in and do a job when called upon, and someone who won't kick up a fuss about being second choice to Isak. The Everton striker fits that bill perfectly, and his injury record, while concerning, might actually work in our favor when it comes to negotiations. The key condition that Graham Bailey mentioned about needing to sign a right winger who can also play centrally makes perfect sense. This is where the Brian Mbeumo links would have been absolutely perfect, giving us that versatility and attacking threat from multiple positions. Unfortunately, it seems like his asking price put us off, but the principle remains sound. What excites me most about this potential Calvert-Lewin move is the flexibility it would give Eddie Howe. Having a different type of striker to Isak, someone who's more of a traditional target man, could be exactly what we need in certain games. When teams sit deep against us, having Calvert-Lewin's aerial presence and hold-up play could be the difference maker. The financial aspect cannot be ignored either. In today's inflated market, getting any Premier League proven striker for nothing is remarkable value. It means we can focus our spending on positions where free transfers aren't readily available, and it keeps us competitive while being smart with our resources. Now then, let's talk about the other side of the transfer coin, the players who might be heading out of St. James's Park this summer. It's not always the most glamorous part of the transfer window, but getting these decisions right is absolutely crucial for building the squad that can take Newcastle United to the next level. The Matt Targett situation is one that's been brewing for quite some time now, hasn't it? When we signed him permanently for $15 million, there was genuine optimism that he could be a solid, reliable option at left-back. The lad had shown glimpses of quality during his loan spell, and securing his services permanently felt like sensible business at the time. However, football has a funny way of not going according to plan, and Targett's Newcastle career has been defined more by what he hasn't been able to do rather than what he has achieved. Those injury problems have been an absolute nightmare for both the player and the club. Just 5 first-team appearances during the entire 2024-25 season tells the whole story, doesn't it? And the fact that his last Premier League start was way back in September 2023 shows just how far he's fallen down the pecking order. It's not entirely his fault. Injuries can happen to anyone in this game, but when you're trying to compete at the highest level like we are, you need players who can be relied upon week in and week out. The emergence of Lewis Hall has been nothing short of brilliant for Newcastle United, and it's made the Targett situation even clearer. Hall has grabbed his opportunity with both hands and shown the kind of energy, pace and attacking threat that modern fullbacks need to possess. Add to that Tino Livramento's versatility in being able to operate on the left when needed, and suddenly Targett becomes surplus to requirements. It's harsh on the lad, but that's football at the highest level. From a business perspective, moving Targett on makes perfect sense. If we can recoup that $15 million or something close to it, that's money that can be reinvested into areas where we need strengthening. Every pound counts when you're trying to build a squad capable of competing in the Champions League, and holding onto players who aren't contributing isn't sustainable for any club, even one with our ambitions. What's particularly encouraging about this whole situation is that it shows Eddie Howe and the recruitment team are being ruthless in their decision-making. There's no room for sentiment when you're trying to build something special, and if a player isn't cutting it, they need to move on. It's exactly the kind of mentality you need when you're the best team in the world. The Kuol'S situation is perhaps even more intriguing because it involves a player who arrived with such promise and excitement. Remember when Dan Ashworth brought him over from Central Coast Mariners? There was genuine buzz about this young Australian talent who was being talked about as one of the brightest prospects in world football. The anticipation was palpable, and we all thought we were witnessing the arrival of our next big star. However, football development isn't always linear, and Kuol'S journey at Newcastle has been more challenging than anyone anticipated. While he's been excelling for the under-21s, the gap between youth football and Eddie Howe's first team is enormous. The fact that he's entering the final year of his contract puts the club in a difficult position. Do we extend his deal and continue his development, or do we cash in while we still can? Tony Popovic's advice for Kuol'S to leave Newcastle is interesting because it comes from someone who understands what the lad needs for his international career. From Australia's perspective, they want to see their talented young players getting regular first-team football, and that's not happening for Kuol'S at St. James Park right now. It's a classic catch-22 situation.